Often there's discussion surrounding various rhythm games begging the question, who is the best player in X game? The result of these discussions almost never result in a unanimous decision. This is due to the great amount of subjectivity in rhythm games and the certain biases that people withhold about the game. So let's talk about some of these factors that go into determining who the best player is, and why they sadly end up being inefficient in reaching its end goal. For some people, leaderboards are the defining characteristic of how good a player is. Sometimes these are pretty straightforward in a game like DDR, where each song has its own leaderboard and nothing more. But then things start to become a bit more shaky in games like Eterna and Osu, where the leaderboards are heavily reliant on a difficulty algorithm that gives out a certain amount of points for your top plays on various songs. This results in the leaderboards being quite unreliable at times, and for people that are relatively new to the game or don't have much experience, they are quick to assume that the number one player is objectively the best player in the game, without taking into account the unfortunate inaccuracies of difficulty algorithms at the moment. On top of this, performance point systems in these rhythm games have virtually no rewards for accuracy, as speed and stamina are the main determinants of your placement on the leaderboards, which further illustrates the notion that leaderboards are even more misleading than they originally look. Some games don't have leaderboards at all. A game like Clone Hero is solely based off of a player's scores alone. Their traditional way of having competition is usually by score posting on YouTube or on some type of forum. There are many different skill sets a player can utilize in rhythm games. One can be absurdly fast, another can have practically unlimited stamina, another can be an accuracy savant, or they can have extremely technical practices in their play. While it would be easy to dismiss all of them as being equal, this question is not as easy to answer as it may seem, since multiple different players of rhythm games normally master only some of these skill sets listed. This makes it difficult to determine which skill set is harder than the other one, and almost everyone is going to have a different opinion on it. It is no surprise that this leads to a plethora of choices for the best player, since so many players in the upper echelon of their respective games maintain their status in different skill sets. Lots of people have different favorite players, which is great. However, in a discussion regarding a number one player, they will most likely side with that specific person. Not just out of having a more personal and emotion connection with this person, but this can go hand in hand with the notion of valuing some skill sets more than others as well. Tournaments are a great measurement of a player's skill. It tests their abilities to perform right then and there, and gives a much more accurate impression of what their average skill would look like. A game like Super Smash Bros. Has a pretty consistent ELO system it goes by, allowing analysts and strong followers of the game to aggregate data to determine where players lie on the rankings, with a very small margin for error. This becomes very hard to implement into rhythm games. The main reason for this is due to the fact that there are not enough tournaments on a year-round basis, or that most rhythm games don't necessarily have a properly set up tournament client to facilitate tournaments efficiently with. A game like Osu has some tournaments here and there, but there are virtually no tournaments that exist where a majority of the top players have faced off one-on-one against each other, as most tournaments are either team-based or are only centered around a certain ranking range or country for 1v1 tournaments. DDR faces a similar issue, but this is because there are not enough top players showing up at tournaments, which is mostly due to the fact that most of these are held in Western areas, most notably in the United States. So even if rhythm games are able to facilitate tournaments, in the end, there are more barriers that prevent being able to host tournaments where multiple top players can be in attendance. Discussions regarding the best player in a rhythm game are always interesting to have here and there, but the amount of subjectivity that tends to get in the way can make these conversations never ending, resulting in people almost never agreeing with each other. Personally, I think this would be solved through the access of tournaments and consistent top-level entry in said tournaments, but sadly this is a reality that is quite far from being apparent. But this does not mean that it is not possible in the near future. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, as I'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoutouts to Water is Good, Zildjian65, and Princesswell for supporting the channel, and feel free to check out my Patreon and other links below. I'll see you all in whatever video I upload next, and take care.
Thank you.